Greetings, geeks. Welcome to episode 478 of Geeks in Space. Joining me today in low Earth orbit, we have Chris DeBona.
Hi, everybody.
And Rob Roseboom.
Hey there.
Everybody recovered from Tron.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel good about Tron.
I feel like Rob would, have a few more days of recovery.
No, no big deal. Just not my bag of tea.
I drank an extraordinary amount during the recording, and I'm glad that afterwards I drank from the purified source of blue energy puddle that I keep in my backyard. Yeah. So no hangover.
Did you inject the blue energy, or did you,
Yeah, like Pulp Fiction style.
It's also good if you just lie in it, let it just soak into your pores.
Yeah,
like
right?
a hot tub.
Why don't they do that? Mm-hmm.
There's a house in my neighborhood that just went for sale, and it has 2 hot tubs in it, and the hot tubs are, no joke, visible from each other. So you can sit in one hot tub while looking at somebody sitting in the other hot tub. They're big jacuzzi tubs. Like, you could have multiple people. Like, there's a story there, and I just don't want to know it.
It sounds fantastic.
Are they socially distant hot tubs? Is that the idea? Like, you can have strangers over in the other hot tub, and you can be in this hot tub, and so you're hot tubbing, but far away from each other?
I mean, you can use your imagination pretty efficiently to come up with reasons for this.
Can you see the hot tubs from your house? Because then I wouldn't have to use my imagination.
Oh, that's true. You know what? If I got a telescope, actually, if I put my 2x extender on my 200 millimeter lens, I could probably see the hot tub. It's on the other side of the pond, so it would take
We've actually discussed recently getting a hot tub, but I already have a boat, so I feel like I have enough things that we don't use enough and are a pain in the ass and cost a lot of money. So.
But the idea of COVID human soup, that sounds good, right?
Tasty.
Sure. Who doesn't like that?
I've had hot tubs in a couple of my homes over the years, and while I enjoy them, I think your assessment is exactly correct. You will use it 5 times in the first 2 weeks, then you will use it once a week, and then suddenly you find out you're using it maybe twice a month.
Then, your experience with your hot tub, the last one, was one of my deciding factors.
Yeah.
So.
What happened? Did it catch on fire or something? Knowing you guys.
I mean, it's just nobody used it.
Yeah, it just seemed like a hassle and got rarely used.
You're always out there, like, and in Michigan, a hot tub is great. It's 25 degrees out. Soaking hot tub's lovely. My favorite hot tub thing is I've talked about this before, but Ryan the Felon, when he was electronically tethered with an ankle bracelet to my home.
Such a good story.
But among the highlights of that was when I came home from work and found him sitting in the jacuzzi tub with his foot in a bread bag sticking out over the edge of the tub. It's like Ryan the Felon would not shovel the driveway because the tether only made it like 10 feet into the driveway before it would go off. He was a filthy, filthy boy. He's a decent man now, I suppose.
So you're saying rehabilitation worked?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a lot harder now, I suppose, because if you actually do go to jail, there's like an 80% chance that you get the COVID.
92% chance if you live in my town. So
yay.
My town.
Did you guys
our town?
Did you guys see John Oliver this week?
I did not.
What was the topic on Sunday?
Jails and COVID in jails.
No, I didn't see that one.
It's worth a watch, but John Oliver always is.
He's remarkable.
Did he mention our jail since it was the highest rate?
I don't know that he meant. I didn't catch him mention Jackson specifically. He may have. He was more. He spent more time on Martin Shkreli, who wanted out of jail to sell his COVID juice.
Right.
If I was out of jail, I could solve everything.
Yep.
That's
Go
Martin
for it,
Shkreli
Martin.
you. What a prick.
He still has
Maybe
the
he's-
world's most punchable face.
Maybe he's the one who was selling that church in Arizona their 99% effective tool against COVID. Did you see that a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Like, wow, you guys are terrible, you know?
It like there's bad and then there's evil, and very few things make me angrier than like legit pretending you're good and then being evil. Like it's one thing if your religion is pretending to be good and you're neutral or just stupid, but that's evil.
Well, I mean, Jim Baker is literally selling buckets full of Bibles for you to bury after the apocalypse, so people can hear the word. I mean,
Jim Baker is like both. Well, he's bad, he's evil, he's greedy, and he's deeply stupid, and he's also very popular. So it's like that magical, Zen diagram, Venn diagram of just madness.
And he's worth more than all three of us combined.
Well, I'm not sure that's true, but he certainly has a larger audience than Geeks in Space.
Sorry, Jake.
Sorry, Jake.
At one point, that was undoubtedly true. However, after you go to jail for money laundering, the government tends to seize most of your assets. You know,
they want to have a discussion with you. You know?
Yeah.
So do you think that he's just selling Bibles so he can pay? You buy a bucket of Bibles, but like 80% of that is just going to the IRS.
I'm
How much
sure
does the Bible cost to print? Is my question. I mean, you'd imagine he gets a pretty good deal on Bibles.
Oh, probably. I mean, he literally has buckets of them, so they must be pretty cheap.
Yeah, they didn't actually have to buy buckets or Bibles for this. They just went to his personal collection.
Well, they also sell like toilet seat adapters to put on top of the bucket, so you can use them as restrooms.
Is there a hole?
Sold separately.
Is there a hole in the top of the bucket?
I'm sure there's like a parable about buckets that he uses when he talks about buckets of Bibles, right?
Oh, sure.
It's like,
there must be.
Parable Bible. Let's see. The parable of the bucket.
Huh. That's good. Thank you, Jim Baker.
Once upon a time. Okay.
So Segway is officially going out of business, right? They're done with production?
No, they're just not going to. It's my understanding they're not going to produce the Segway PT, the tall one, for the old school Segway.
Right.
They're probably still going to make the crappy small Segway,
like hoverboards
that nobody cares about. Yeah, they basically have a hoverboard competitor. That's.
I'm sure you remember, but it is crazy to me that at one point this was, everyone was waiting around with bated breath to see what this was and how it was going to change the world. And wow, like this and New Coke, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about failed marketing campaigns.
I remember when it happened, everyone was talking about a ginger. That was the secret code name. And people are talking about ginger. It's going to change cities. It's going to change the world. And then it came out and everyone's like, UPCs are not so smart, are you?
Yeah.
Right.
So it was kind of a correction out here, in the Silicon Valley, in orbit above Silicon Valley.
But that was still like in the halo of the early .com or the .com era.
Yeah, that's right. It was. Well, what's funny is, so there was a guy at work and he had 4 of them. And so I took them to a food camp at O'Reilly and just let people, ride them. I came back and I was like, hey, so because I had to fix them up. They were actually, like all the tires were flat and, he didn't care about them. And so I brought them back and I was like, hey, so, where do you want me to take these? You want me to take them to your house? You want me to take them to the office? And he's like, no, I don't want them back. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, keep them, man. I don't want them. I'm like, what am I going to do with 4 Segways? So I shipped 1 to Chicago, 1 to DC, because I had offices, I had people in those offices. And then I kept 1 and 1 was basically trash. So I think I gave it to somebody. And then I rode that around for a while around campus. And I actually had a page describing, like, if you wanted to borrow it, what you should do and all this stuff. And then I was driving it, and that's how I fractured my rib. So I went over a speed bump at like 15 miles an hour, and I went flying.
So what
So
you're
like
it worked out for you.
People are like, yeah, it totally worked out for me. And then I gave it to one of my employees because I was like, you know what, this is I mean, I wrote it a little bit after the rib thing, which still hurts to this day. I should point out it's been like 10 years. And I gave it to an employee, and he enjoys it. So
If I remember correctly, though, at the same time this came out, he was working on the system that would take salt out of water and produce electricity at the same time.
now Dean Kamen's actually a pretty remarkable guy. I mean,
they talked about it on a 60 Minutes interview, and then I heard nothing more about it afterwards. I thought, what? You know, if anything should be heralded as something that would change the world, it would be this, right?
Yep.
Well, no, he was also one of the earliest people to ship LED light bulbs based on the Cree lamps. He was, I mean, the Segway was weird, but he sold that company like 4 years, 5 years later, and he didn't make a ton of money on it, but he did okay. And then, those Coke machines in the movie theaters where you can say, "I want a lemon Coke with extra Diet Coke and a shot of sugar." Well, he designed those and made those for Coke. And then part of the deal was for every one of those he made, they installed his water thing in some water poverty, drought-stricken area.
That's cool.
And it was just like, Dean Kamen, I mean, he's a little wacky. He's got like, Dumpling Island over there off the coast of the Northeast of the United States. But he's, and like, he did First Robotics. He started that up. I mean, this guy, I mean, the Segway is a little wacky, But
when you have a decades-long career and you do as many things as he did, you're going to have a few wacky rolls of the dice.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, he's a heck of a guy. And so the thing that people were always talking about back in 5-10 years ago was like, didn't Dean Kamen die on a Segway? And it was Jimmy Heselden, right? So he apparently he was going along in his off-roading Segway, and people think he had a heart attack, and he basically went off the cliff and he died. So it's like, oh, you poor guy, So
just let me say, I think the off-roading Segways are awesome.
They are pretty awesome.
Those things are like, wow, that thing is fantastic.
That's what you chose to do.
Yeah.
All right. Dungeon
worse
Scrawl.
ways to go.
Dungeon Scrawl, man. This is just really well done.
It's remarkable. So let's make a little grand entry here, and then we're gonna have a path going from here into the dungeon.
Yeah, I monkeyed around with this a little bit last night, and it's great.
Yeah,
I am
super
mad.
Cool.
I'm mad that this didn't exist when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I must have gone. I can't imagine how many trees worth of graph paper I scribbled dungeons on. Yeah, this is great.
Oh, it's got a mirror. That's cool. I didn't see that function.
Right? Isn't that neat?
Yeah,
it's really something.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm just really impressed. It's funny when you see, because obviously you can do all of that stuff in Photoshop, but this is just so optimized for this one silly task. It's glorious.
The only thing I couldn't see, maybe is there a way for you to hide the dungeon that you've made and uncover it?
Like a shroud of darkness.
I do not know. I only started using this yesterday when I saw a link to it somewhere, and it's really something.
Because that is the big.
Did you see the maze generation thing? Here, watch this.
What would be cool would be do like the world's dumbest raycast thing, and like say a person is here, click, and then just have it draw out from that point what they can see. So then all you have to do is tap on where the party is standing, and then the map just automatically expands so that they can't see into places they can't view yet.
Right.
Like not just
and apparently there's
circle.
different kinds of styles too, and I haven't figured that part out yet, honestly.
Pay extra for themes. That'd be a good
No,
DLC.
I don't think it's like that. Yo, style presets. Oh, here it is. Cool. Oh my gosh, spaceship.
Spaceship.
Boom.
That doesn't.
That, man.
It's that's just, I don't know. There's something just that makes me happy when I see just well executed, elegant. The fact that in 2 seconds you have a dungeon, you know, like, and
Yeah.
I mean, you spent a minute, and there you go. That's 3 encounters in a D&D campaign in a treasure room. You know?
Right.
And you don't have to argue with Alan about the dimensions of the room.
Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Way to go, Alan. So we finally have a use for the Threadripper. Besides having a trillion cores, you can now use the monitor program
Look at that one.
for the Threadripper to do animation.
This is legit clever. You know. Also, I have no idea what's going on the screen. Just for the record, this is like some like Chinese or Japanese or Korean site.
I think they're telling you to buy Bitcoin.
I'm almost certain of it.
It was like I tried to watch part of the Apple keynote, the WWDC keynote the other day, and if I searched for WWDC keynote on the YouTubes, as one might be prone to do, and the first match, which I clicked through, was somebody just wrapping it with Bitcoin spam. So good job Google on that YouTube search.
Hey, you know,
like number
you get
one,
people what they want, man.
number 1, Bitcoin. Number 2, Apple. Like Apple. Like you search for Apple, and that's number 2.
Well, you know, this happens with trailers sometimes where you'll
yeah.
see someone's repackaging of a trailer instead of the trailer itself. And so I look for most watched and then I go there. But yeah, it's like, I don't know why they do it that way, to be honest. I don't know why their search quality signals, you know, are saying, do they think that there's something about IGN that I like more than Disney for a trailer?
Well, and worse than that is when
or
you
maybe you're like a super Bitcoiner, Rob, and that's what you're not telling the world.
And I mean, I read a lot about Bitcoin for sure.
So
So maybe that, but it is pretty clear that what I am clicking on in this situation is spam. And it just feels like maybe somebody somewhere would look at this and say, spam.
Wait a second. You're telling me that you think that other Bitcoin stuff isn't spam?
Some of it might be a little real-ish.
I mean, I hate to say it, like, you know, I think that if you're super, super into Bitcoin, you're probably into ripping people off. I mean, I'm just saying.
Wow.
You know, it's like, I mean, you know.
Way to generalize, man.
I'm sorry, I'm stereotyping.
Yeah, don't forget the people who use it for the dark web.
Yeah,
or buying drugs, or you know, malware authors. You know, there's some serious malware authors. They're not just in it for the scam,
right? If Nate was here, he'd tell you all about how the Hodl gang is Hodl gang. How you know they're in it, you know, for the political statement.
No, they're in it for the Lambos. Come on.
Hodl game.
All right.
I still have my Bitcoin, but still, that's cool. That's cool.
This is for the record. Clever. This is super neat. This is very sharp of them. They have this cute, you know, what is this? A 16 by 16 screen or 12 by 12. What is this?
However many they needed to make a nice grid with their core. This reminds me, and I'm kind of bummed that Nate's not here because I wanted to see if he remembered, but when I took my graphics class, like the 300 level computer science graphics class in circa 1996 or something, I remember them talking about ray tracing. And like the first time we talked about ray tracing in that class is like the goal of this is to someday get to real-time ray tracing. But if we ever are going to do that, what we need to do is array a grid of computers in a field and put a red, green, and blue light bulb on top of each computer and then go up in a helicopter and take a picture of the ground. And I just like the first thing I did when I saw this, like, that is the least efficient way that you could do that. And it's kind of awesome. Let's see. You just had up the depixelizing video games thing, which is serious nightmare fuel. Yeah,
so basically, someone put in one of the depixelization routines for old 8-bit games,
Blah, blah, blah.
and they got things like this, which are horrible. Like Mario became horrible.
I don't even know. There was one of the Cockademon from Doom. That ends up looking to me like
It's just hilarious.
it looks like the baby from Teletubbies, like smiling in the sun.
Yeah, it does. Or it looks like the Twilight baby in the first movie.
I don't know. It kind of
Yeah.
looks like my lunch lady from elementary school.
This is the one. This is the one that really got me. So I loved Monkey Island,
Oh, yeah.
right? And here's Guybrush Threepwood, and I'm like, that is unfortunate. You know, I guess he was horribly burned or had a terrible haircut, or both. And yeah,
I mean, I guess the serious piece to this is that people are using depixelization and facial recognition to like identify criminals and stuff. And this should be a pretty good reminder. Like there's lots of videos out there where they show like here's the pixelated face, and then here are two outputs of the algorithm to depixelize, and they are two completely different faces, and they both like win in whatever machine learning algorithm depixelized those images.
yeah.
But they look completely different.
Are you saying when I watch a police show and they say enhance, that's all bullshit?
Oh, well.
I'm saying the law can never be wrong. All right, let's see. So do you guys want to talk about The Last of Us 2 and all the review bombing and all that going on?
Yeah, I didn't actually. So that was one of the ones that I went through the link, and it was like a weird 9-gag link that I couldn't really parse.
It was just whatever. The link that I just put in there was more of a placeholder. It was that E.T., the Atari 2600 E.T., notoriously the worst game of all time
Ever,
by
yeah.
some metric, but whatever. It's not even that bad. It's just terrible. Has a higher score than The Last of Us 2 does, following a review bombing campaign on the internet by angry people.
But what's their beef?
All right, so there's a lot of beef.
This game is not as enjoyable as they wanted it to be. There you go.
There's a couple of components. One is that the critics universally gave it like mega scores, and it apparently is not as mega as these scores might think. Maybe that's the same thing about how DC movies on Rotten Tomatoes always get low reviews from the critics but high reviews from users. But the other piece of the story is that before the COVID, or early in the COVID thing, somebody leaked all the story points. And people speculated that one of the characters was trans. And they then, when the game came out, apparently that's true. And people don't like being forced to play trans characters. So, and I guess that's a playable thing. I might be misunderstanding this, but apparently that makes people angry. Because, you know, I mean, I'm not a plumber, but, you know, I can still play Mario and be fine. But I don't know what the problem there is. But the problem is, again, it's two different things. There's the difference between the critic review of the game and the actual gameplay, the actual game itself, and maybe that is disappointing. And then there's people complaining about the social justice warrior angle. And I mean, you can apply, if you look at things through that lens, then everything is through that lens. So I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about the trans thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's disappointing. I get. You know.
Do the people who are coming down the game also realize that zombies have issues with their sexuality? You know, because they're usually eating other people. You know, before they can engage. No. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a video game. How about we all just calm the shit down? You know, but at the same time, can I tell you one thing that really, really bothers me about Metacritic? Okay, so the meta score based on critic reviews is a 1 to 100 scale, and the user score is a 1 to 10 scale. It's like, guys, can you just pick a scale? You know,
but one group wants to be special.
I give Metacritic a 1, and I'm not going to tell you which scale.
All right.
Well, 1%.
Is it a good game? Have you guys played the game? Is it any good?
No.
You know, because the first one was pretty good. I made it to the first cutscene. I hate long cutscenes though, and it was like a super long cutscene. I'm like, I don't have time for this, so I shut it off. But up until that point, I was having a good time. But that was Last of Us Part 1, and I'm like, I get why people, and also they do the kid death thing, and I'm like, you know, it's like I have a hard time with that, you know. Just, you know, emotionally, it's like, give me a stupid plumber fighting a big gorilla, you know. Because like when you start like trying to bring in like kid death, I'm like, ugh, I can't do this.
I read an interesting comment that I thought was fairly reasonable, which is I guess the male lead in the story. In the first one, you know, he's an expert survival person, and apparently in this story, he makes a lot of really stupid mistakes. And one of the beefs that I've heard is that you know, he's a different character in this story because the character from the first one was very smart and savvy and a survival expert. And in this movie, or in this story, he is just doing dumb things, but maybe that's because Ellie is the lead now. I mean, I don't know. Like all things, there's probably bits of truth scattered in every column. I mean, sure, games like to make stories that talk about social issues. Of course they do. Have you seen a movie or a TV show or a video game ever? They all do that. Right. That's why people write. They write so they can, you know, talk about these things.
The danger of opening up a gate to hell. Right?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
well
they're trying to. They have an agenda. They have an anti-hell agenda with Doom. Clearly, you know. I mean, just looking at like the top PS4 games, what do we got here? Pillars of Eternity. They imply there's an eternity. I mean, come on, dude. You know, keep your Bible out of my video game. I mean, yeah, you can always find something.
I mean, Tetris is absolutely blockophobic. You're trying to just get rid of those blocks. You shove them in a corner and then get rid of them.
Let's Create Pottery is hardly realistic in how the glazes end up on the pottery. I'm outraged.
You should probably vote 1 and review bomb. But I will say, I enjoy tremendously the review bombing protest.
Mr. Malda, again, I will vote 1, but on what scale?
And don't get me started on the problems with the physics in Goat Simulator.
I mean, really. Yeah. You know?
There's been a lot
and in Spider-Man, there wasn't a single ovipositor. You know? Not one. These people don't understand spiders.
Spend a lot of time worrying about refilling my my web juice.
Yeah, your spinnerets. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So there's a really cool story on Tetris on the list.
Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah.
That if you're interested in these sorts of things, you should absolutely check this video out. But basically, there's different versions of Tetris, obviously, and you can play versions where you start with the stack at different heights and you play with different speeds. And they basically talked about how for years and years, starting at level 19 with the blocks at the 5 pre-stacked height was undefeatable by human players. And they talk about different strategies and everything. And then basically a couple of people figured out a strategy that worked. And then suddenly like 30 or 40 people were able to do it. And it's just an interesting story. I played the hell out of this when I was a kid. And although this is the NES version, and I played it obviously on the Game Boy, like, you know, every other child
like
of 1989. But it's really interesting, and it's well done. It's interesting to watch just to see like what they figure out and like the different people that are like coming on different strategies. And then they have a kid who's just like, it took me about 20 minutes to beat it. It's like, oh, you're just different. You figured it out, and then you're just different. It's cool. The last one that I had on the list was another one for Nate. You know, after he's done building his new PC, he needs this sweet new gaming chair.
Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, look at that.
This is that standard plastic chair stacked on
Yeah.
itself, it
Yeah,
looks like. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's actually a really decent video about the history of this chair and how it came to just be everywhere.
Wasn't that on
on
98
the
or
YouTubes.
99 Pi?
Yeah, maybe that's where I saw it. Yeah, it was it was really something, you know. This is a heck of it's kind of slapdash though, the way the light goes in and out and
I think that was the
all
point.
the rest. Yeah, I don't think that this is a great quality chair.
You don't think that the ergonomics are going to work out for you?
Well, you know, honestly, I end up spending 2 hours a day standing desk nowadays in the work from shed, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
I was doing the standing desk thing before, but right now I have a cable plugged into my PC that's too short to stand up. So if I ever stand up, I don't know what's going to give. Either my desk is going to like flip or my computer's going to fall over or the plug is going to crack my motherboard. I don't know. I'm not really willing to try it.
Well, that's the thing. I've set up everything so that so I've got a bundle of cables over there because the actual computer is now on the rack over here. It's not a proper rack. It's like a wire.
It's a shelf.
And then I have this, you know, for because it's just a Husky adjustable workbench from Home Depot, right? And so I got one of these little things.
You just crank it with a screwdriver?
Well, yeah, I'm cranking it with the old Bosch here.
That's
right?
nice.
So yeah, it works for me though, you know. So I'm gonna go with it. So yeah.
All right, man. You should ask your employer to buy you a real desk. I think they will.
You know, actually, I wanted this because it's got a more durable surface, and because I'm always like doing weird projects. Like I had a staff meeting yesterday, and I was spending it basically plastic welding while talking to people, and so I'm spilling like methyl chloride, you know, on my hands. I was wearing gloves, but I had to take the gloves off really fast because of the chemical burn that was coming.
Boss.
Yeah, you know. Sometimes you gotta fidget spin.
Right? I understand. Hey, we're at the half-hour mark. You want to say goodbye to Jake and Elon?
I really don't think Elon is watching.
Elon is definitely watching. Don't you listen to him, Elon. We love you. We know you're our #1 fan.
Yeah, well, he at least has someone watching for him.
Right.
I mean, he's a pretty important guy.
Yeah.
So that was the best thing about our Tron review is thank you, Robert. You can go now. It's just like the guy whose job is to keep his desk company when he's not there. You know,
professional stander.
Yep.
You know, and again, in defense of Dillinger, teleportation, space and monetization of video. You know, I mean, and then space paranoids. It's like he took a thing. He took you know, the modicum of income from games to utterly change the world.
Oh yeah.
And meanwhile, you know,
it's not even just teleportation, right? Think about the storage capabilities of digitizing things and then redigitizing them, you know, when they reach their destination. I mean,
Do you know how much data storage you need in 1982 technology in order to store a digital copy of a human? Much less let's just say an orange.
Right. I mean,
who figured that out?
Multiple scientific breakthroughs.
Yep.
But none more popular or none more important than that video game.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Kevin Flynn. You're no Dillinger.
Yeah, the real protagonist of this story.
He created AI, like a full AI. Yeah, it wanted to murder people, but I mean, actually, you know, he just wanted to murder programs. The first person he was going to kill was Kevin Flynn.
And we've seen enough movies that we know that's going to happen. As soon as you make an AI, you have to fight it into submission.
Yep.
That's the way that works.
Using frisbees.
It's also worth pointing out, too, though, that the other thing that this movie really teaches us is that the old Unix programmers just want to dress up like penises.
That's a good place to end.
That's right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob and Chris.
and Rob's.
Rob's. All right. This has been episode 478 of Geeks in Space. I am Rob, Commander Taco Malda. And I hope that you join us on Friday for more fun and exciting news stuff. Bye.